Hey vinyl community, it's Mazzy here. So it's May 8th, 2020. It's a pretty special day in music history because 50 years ago today, on May 8th, 1970, the last Beatles album came out. That was Let It Be. I'll tell you about this in a moment. In fact, maybe I should show instead. Here's a copy of Let It Be, a sealed copy. This is an 80s pressing, and it still has the 598 Record Factory. It's a store I worked in the late 70s, so maybe I might have gotten this. Anyway, this is not the original copy because the original was a gatefold in America, and this is a single disc copy, but 598 from the Record Factory, which means looks like it was a $7.98 list price. List prices, what labels had manufactured list prices, different than today. And usually a discount store sold a record $1 to $2 off list price. Department stores sold them at list price. So 50 years ago today, Let It Be. I am not going to get into the full story of Let It Be. There's countless books, magazines, YouTube videos here from the experts that are going to tell you the A, B, C, D, E to that. But I will remind you or tell you if you're a newbie to the Beatles and this album, this was not the last album the Beatles recorded. They worked on a project. Part of it was McCartney's idea. He was sort of the driving force of the second half of the Beatles' career. John Lennon was a little more the first half. If you look at the single ratios and everything else and all that complicated mathematical stuff in Beatle lore, but McCartney wanted to do a big live show, do like a documentary of them making their next album, and the finale would be maybe up on Mount Everest or some major performance at some iconic location. Well, as it turned out, they went up to the rooftop of their building on Savile Row, which is a great scene. So the 50th anniversary, this year there is going to be a new version of Let It Be. We think it's called Get Back, at Peter Jackson, the director of The Lord of the Rings and documentary filmmaker, archivist, has done some amazing digital stuff, has re-edited all the footage from the Let It Be sessions. They worked in Twickenham Studios in London. They shot some of it at Apple Records on Savile Row in the studio downstairs that was built. And those of you who have seen Let It Be, it looks a little like a band breaking up, but apparently that's not true. It's how it was edited. We'll see. But they will reissue the actual updated version, the Get Back new film, and apparently just a cleaned up version of Let It Be this year, depending on pandemics and when you can press things. Maybe it'll be digitally. But the reason I'm showing this, because in the UK, the album came out in a box with a book, and it's the worst friggin' design. My box is falling apart. This is a box from 1970, had a cardboard insert. The UK album, this is my original UK copy here. Still in beautiful shape, actually. The record itself is still in wonderful shape. But it came with this beautiful book, and mine is not falling apart. Apparently most of the books, the binding has come unglued over the years. Photographs by Ethan Russell. Ethan Russell's a great American photographer who is living the next patriot in England. Photographed the Stones, the Beatles, Who's Next cover. A beautiful book last year he self-published on a Kickstarter project. He's living in Marin County and just across the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco. I bought that and I showed that in one of my videos. I hesitate to really open this just because it is a little fragile, but gorgeous book. So I'm hoping when they do this updated box set or whatever they come up with this year, they reprint this book with a wonderful binding. I actually have 2 copies of this book. Now, this copy didn't come out in America, but Tower Records in San Francisco had a huge stack of them. They imported the stack of these, so I picked one up at Tower Records, which was on Columbus and Bay near Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco, the second ever Tower Records. So beautiful book, and hopefully it's pretty rare. I was going to pull some other books that talk about the Let It Be and the Get Back Sessions for my Beatles book collection, but I'm not going to dive deep into it. A couple other things here. Just to show you, this is the original American cover. It had obviously a heavier cover stock, had a gatefold. No book, but the American version, not a glossy cover like in the UK. Again, on Apple Records, I believe. There were versions, this was originally on the red Apple record label, the red Apple, opposed to the green. And then this is a somewhat later UK copy. I believe this is a later 70s, probably a mid to late 70s pressing. Oh no, this is a special pressing on white vinyl, but this is, I'm thinking late 70s, early 80s. I don't remember. Someone else is gonna remind me and post it down there. I don't know the specific dates. I don't recall. Mr. Bacon, if you're watching Mr. Bacon, can you tell me when the white labeled version, I can need to look in the dead wax and look it up on Discogs, and I can figure it out. I just don't remember. I have so many Beatle records. I probably have, between box sets and everything, maybe 15 to 18 copies of this, not including compact discs. So they recorded this stuff, and then it just was a very tempestuous time, not a good time. And they ended up coming back for one last record, and the last record that recorded, we all know to be Abbey Road. Some consider their best record. That's subjective, but Let It Be was eventually, Lennon gave the tapes to Phil Spector, he mixed them. McCartney wasn't totally happy with them, but I think this is a nice thing. Oh, I didn't pull, which I should pull, because it's part of the story here. What's nice is the Beatle records are right behind the camera today. Now, some people aren't hot on this, Let It Be Naked. McCartney really pushed this to come out, and this was issued in 2003, and this is the tapes from the Let It Be, the Get Back Sessions, stripped down. All the orchestration, the choral vocals like Long and Winding Road, and those were stripped back. I like this record. Somewhat slightly different track listing, I believe, but really great record. Again, a lot of people in the Beatle fanatics, the Beatle crazies, sometimes don't like this record. It came with Fly on the Wall, and what this is just conversations talking from the Let It Be sessions. See, in terms of the film, it's shot documentary style by Michael Lindsay Hogg, who directed it. Michael Hogg Lindsay? I'm blanking out on his name right now. Anyway, there are countless hours of Nagra tape recordings from those sessions that have music and have conversation. The Nagra are the tape recorders that sync up to filmmaking. And that's why, if you've heard bootlegs, you have heard a lot of beep sounds. The beep tracks on the tapes on the bootlegs the beep are placed on Nagra tapes on the recordings, so you can sync up the video so it won't be out of sync. This is a bootleg box set, and this, I don't remember when this came out, but what this has are virtually all the Get Back sessions. I also have a companion CD box that has, in theory, everything. So Trademark of Quality was one of the first bootleg companies with the logo, the pig logo. And this is a number of, I don't know, 8 records, 10 records, 20 records. I don't even know how much. I have all this stuff on digital source now. But these were put out in the 70s or 80s, I believe, and they're from all the Nagra tapes that record in the session. So it's going to really be interesting what Peter Jackson does on the film side of it, and obviously, I don't know if it's going to be Giles Martin again. I think Giles Martin's probably working on the Let It Be 50th anniversary, so I assume there'll be a remastered set, remixed of the original album. Another thing that I would love to put out, Let It Be was going to come out under the name Get Back, and this was the cover. This again is a beautiful bootleg. This set came with a faux Apple mailer This copy was addressed to Jackie Lomax in Leytonstone, London. It's like a promo package of Get Back. The photograph that you all know from the blue and red albums that they recreated, they used on that, was taken for what would have been the Get Back album. This edition was the mix that Glenn Johns, the producer engineer, worked on and did that mix on this, and it never came out. Different track listing, Teddy Boy's on here that would turn up on McCartney's first solo album. Dig It, a longer version of Dig It, and Don't Let Me Down, but really kind of a great record, and great that it emulates their first album, Please Please Me. So that's about it. You know, I don't need to show you Let It Be covers again and again and again, my whole collection here. You get the gist of it. Happy birthday, Let It Be. And this is important because this is the last 50th we'll have of official Beatle records. After this, they were no more. And I remember that spring, just before I was getting out of school in 1970, and Let It Be came out. The single Let It Be was all over the radio, which is actually a different mix than the album version. I prefer the lead guitar solo on the Phil Spector version on the album over the George Martin produced 45. But that again is subjective. But it's happy birthday, Let It Be. So Mazzy loves you, and tell me your Let It Be stories. Get back to where you once belonged.